Who needs a PlayStation 5 Pro to play in VR when you've got Metal Gear Solid VR missions on the original Sony PlayStation? Plus, I don't actually think my hair would fit in the headset. MGS VR Missions was an unexpected surprise for me. If you played the original Metal Gear Solid, then you may already be familiar with the handful of VR missions offered in that game. They're small stealth sections set in a virtual world that teach you a little bit about the game's mechanics before you jump into the main story mode. And that's about what I expected to get out of VR missions. I thought it'd just be a bunch of cool and challenging stealth missions, but boy was I ever wrong. To be clear, this is not in any way a sequel to Metal Gear Solid. This instead feels more like a standalone DLC or even a ROM hack of its predecessor. It takes all the assets and game mechanics from Metal Gear Solid and uses them in ways that I never would have thought possible. It's hard to even nail down exactly what this game is. Is it a stealth game? Well, yeah, sometimes, but it's also an action game, a puzzle game, and even a mystery game if you can believe that. As I've said, the controls are identical to those found in Metal Gear Solid, so if you played that game, you'll feel right at home here. You'll be choking out guards, crawling through vents, and hiding under boxes in the stealthier stages, and then mowing down enemies and targets with Metal Gear Solid's impressive array of weapons in the more action-packed stages. It still does impress me just how much complexity there is to this game's mechanics, and you'll have to use all of those mechanics if you want to get the highest scores and the best times. I guess that's probably the best way to categorize this game. It's like a time attack / high score kind of game. Almost every single stage has a top time or score that you'll want to try and beat. Completing stages and getting top ranks will eventually unlock more stages and bonuses for you to enjoy, like this lovely photo shoot with Mei Ling. If you're wondering why I haven't mentioned the plot of the game, well, that's because there is no plot. It's strictly VR missions, but don't let that put you off because this game is seriously awesome. Overall, I think that at its core, this is a game for fans of the first Metal Gear Solid. If Metal Gear Solid is the main course, then this is the triple layered chocolate dessert that comes after. I almost immediately got sucked into achieving the top times on each of the stages. There were several moments where I look at the top time and think, there's no way to beat it that fast, it's impossible. But with some clever thinking and precise gameplay, all of the stages really are possible to complete in way less time than you might think. And boy is it ever satisfying to finally achieve that perfect run on a stage after retrying it like a dozen times.
Excellent, Snake.
The good news though is that this game is very generous with the time it gives you. You don't have to reach the top 3 times in order to move on to the next level, you just have to beat the stage, so if there's a really hard one, you can just pass with a mediocre time and come back to it later if you want. This really is one of those games. You know the ones, the kind of game where, as you play it, you can feel that the devs were just having a fun time making it. At some point, you have to shoot down a UFO with a rocket launcher, and then blow up a giant version of one of the guards with a rocket launcher, and then blow up 2 of them at the same time with a rocket launcher. I mean, come on, is there any game with a rocket launcher that isn't good? I particularly enjoyed the mystery stages of the game where you get a clue and then have to figure out which of the guards in the lineup is the killer. If you couldn't already tell, I highly recommend Metal Gear Solid VR Missions. It gets the Orbit seal of approval. This is a great game to add to your PlayStation library. There's tons of awesome levels, great graphics and sound, so much variety, and did I mention that you get to snap photos of Mei Ling? If you're planning to pick up this game for the original hardware, I recommend that you also grab a copy of Metal Gear Solid to go along with it. No matter which of these you play first, you'll likely end up wanting to play the other because both are excellent video games that complement each other extremely well. It's Metal Gear Solid VR Missions for the Sony PlayStation.